Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with our today's practice questions, we have two important announcements. BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS would be conducting a national scholarship test which is scheduled to be conducted on 28th of August 2022. What is that you have to do? Follow the link given in the description box, give the necessary information and you would be able to win some attractive scholarships. The second announcement is in reference to the weekly current affairs explain session. As part of our explain session, tomorrow's topic discussion is what is the freebies debate. Please do tune in live on our YouTube channel tomorrow at 8 p.m. so that you understand everything about this topic. Let's get started and look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to Champaran Satyagraha. It challenged the Tinkatiya system in which European planters were forcing the peasants to grow indigo on 3 out of 25 part of total land. Mahatma Gandhiji was persuaded by Pandit Rajkumar Shukla, one such oppressed indigo cultivator, to visit the region. The popular leaders associated with the Satyagraha were Braj Kishore Prasad and Anugrah Narayan Sinha. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Champaran Satyagraha. Let us try and understand what are these options. When you look into the first option, yes, it did challenge the Tinkatiya system in which the European planters were forcing the peasants to grow indigo not on 3 out of 25 but instead it was 3 out of 20 part of the total land, which is why the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, yes, Mahatma Gandhi was persuaded by Pandit Rajkumar Shukla, one such oppressed indigo cultivator, to visit this region and ensure that this problem is resolved. The third, the popular leaders associated with Satyagraha were Braj Kishore Prasad, Anugrah Narayan Sinha, Ram Navami Prasad as well as Shambhu Sharan Verma. So the third statement is also right. So what we have is option 2 and 3 which is right, which is why the answer to this would be B. Now if we look into some of the factual data with respect to the Champaran Satyagraha, Mahatma Gandhi was persuaded by Pandit Rajkumar Shukla, one such oppressed indigo cultivator, to visit the region. As a result of Gandhi's visit, the Champaran Satyagraha began. An ashram was established in Champaran. A detailed survey and study of the villages were organized where Gandhi's handpicked group of eminent lawyers like Babu, Braj Kishore Prasad, Anugrah Narayan Sinha, Rajendra Prasad accounted the general state of degenerate living, atrocities and terrible episodes of the sufferings of the indigo farmers. What is this Champaran Satyagraha? Champaran happens to be a place in Bihar. Poor farmers were forced to grow indigo and other cash crops instead of food crops which are necessary for their survival. They were forced, large amount of taxes were imposed on them. They were forced to grow indigo over other crops which are required for the survival, which is why people started agitating against the Europeans, and at the same time they requested Mahatma Gandhi to join forces as well. So everything fell in place, and which is why Champaran Satyagraha came into picture, because this was a fight against the imperialistic policies of the Europeans where large amount of taxes were imposed and they forced these poor farmers to grow indigo instead of the food crops. Now let's look into the next practice question. Arrange the following in the chronological order of their reign. We have Aram Shah, Muizuddin Bahram, Kutubuddin Ayubak, Rukuddin Firoz. The answer to this is 3142. If we have to arrange in the chronological order, first what we have is Kutubuddin Ayubak, Aram Shah, Iltutmish, Rukuddin Firoz, Razia Uddin, Muizuddin Bahram, Al-Uddin Masud, Naziruddin Muhammad, Ghiyas-Uddin Balban as well as Muizuddin Muhammad Kaikbad. This happens to be the right chronological order, and if you look into this question, it is 3142 which happens to be the right arrangement according to their reign. If we have to speak about Kutubuddin Aybak, he was the first ruler of the Mamluk dynasty. He was born to a Turkish family in Central Asia, sold as a slave to Muhammad Ghori, the ruler of Ghor in Afghanistan. Ayubak rose up the rank and became Ghori's trusted general and commander. He was given the charge of Ghori's India's position after 1192. When Ghori was assassinated, Ayubak declared himself the Sultan of Delhi in 1206, started construction of Quwatul Islam Mosque in Delhi. This happens to be the first Islamic monument in northern India. He began the construction of Qutub Minar in Delhi. He was also known as Lakbash, given of flags for his generosity. However, he was also responsible for the destruction and desecration of many Hindu temples. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section, how did Kutubuddin Ayubak pass away? Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Yakshagana, which of the following statements are correct? It is a theoretical dance art form performed in Karnataka. The art form is performed only by men and the male artists play the female roles. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Yakshagana. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into Yakshagana, yes, it is a theoretical dance form which is performed in the state of Karnataka. This is the right statement. But when you look into the second statement, the art form is performed only by men. This is a wrong statement. Traditionally, it was the men who used to wear the makeups and take up the role of the women. But now what we have is women who also participate as well. You also have women artists as well. They also have key role when it comes to the Yakshagana. So historically it was only the men, but right now we have the men and women who actively participate in the Yakshagana. If we have to speak about Yakshagana, Yakshagana literally means song of the Yaksha, demigods or the spirits. The mela or troupe consists of two main parts. One is called as Mummela, which is called as the foreground actors. The other happens to be Himmela, which is the singers and instrumentalists in the background. It is a theatrical art form of Karnataka, originally an all-night performance where the mela traveled from one village to another. It is also performed in South Kannada districts of Karnataka and Kasaragod district of Kerala. Yakshagana is performed in open-air theatres. Each performance typically focuses on a small sub-story known as Prasanga from the ancient Hindu epics of Ramayana or Mahabharata. The show consists of both stage performances by talented artists and commentary accompanied by the traditional music. If we speak about the music, it includes chande, harmonium, maddale, tala, flute among others. The costumes used in Yakshagana are unique and elaborate. Large size headgear, colored faces, elaborate costumes all over the body and musical beats on the legs as well, which is also called as Gejje. Yakshagana is generally presented in Kannada but also performed in Malayalam and Tulu languages on certain occasions. So it is mostly Kannada, but it may also include Malayalam as well as Tulu as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The Anang Tal Lake is in Haryana. It was created by Tomar King Anang Pal II. Anang Pal Tomar II was succeeded by his grandson Prithviraj Chauhan. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Anang Tal Lake. When we speak about Anang Tal Lake, where is it? It is situated in Delhi and not in Haryana. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, yes, it was created by Tomar King Anang Pal II. This statement is right. And when you look into the third statement, Anang Pal Tomar II was succeeded by his grandson Prithviraj Chauhan. If we have to look into the facts with respect to the Tomars dynasty, the Tomars were the feudatories of Pratiharas. Tomar dynasty ruled between 8th and the 12th century AD in parts of present-day Delhi and Haryana. Anangapala I founded the Tomar dynasty. Anang Pal II was the founder of Dilli Kapuri, which eventually went on to become Delhi. Anang Pal II is credited to have established and populated Delhi during his reign in the 11th century. Anang Pal Thoma II was succeeded by his grandson Prithviraj Chauhan, and Chauhans captured Delhi in the middle of 12th century and the Tomars became their feudatories. These are some of the important facts when it comes to the Tomars of Delhi. Now let's look into the next practice question. If a particular area is brought under the 5th schedule of the Constitution of India, which one of the following statements best reflects the consequence of it? This would prevent the transfer of land of tribal people to non-tribal people. This would create a local self-governing body in that area. This would convert that area into a union territory. The state having such areas would be declared as a special category state. Which of the statements is the correct one? The answer to this is this would prevent the transfer of land of tribal people to the non-tribal people. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2022. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is tomato flu. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. What is this tomato flu? This happens to be a probable variant of the hand, foot and mouth disease or HFMD, which commonly occurs in children under 10 years of age and can also infect the adults. So the first important point from the preliminary examination point of view is that it can also infect the adults. This disease was first identified in Kerala's Kollam district. Instead of being a viral infection, tomato flu might be an after effect of dengue fever or chikungunya in children. What are the symptoms of the tomato flu? When we look into the symptoms, skin irritation happens to be the most common symptom of tomato flu infected person. Decoloration, legs and hands get discolored and slightly unidentifiable. Fatigue and tiredness, while fatigue can be common for people who travel a lot, fatigue can be a health risk. Abdominal cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, while these symptoms are also common, they can affect your overall health. Coughing, fever, sneezing or runny nose, these symptoms are quite common in coronavirus as well. Joint pain and body ache, a tomato virus infected person would have difficult moving smoothly. Now the question is, why is it called as tomato flu? The reason being because of the red and painful blisters that appear throughout and grow gradually to the size of a tomato. So basically there are symptoms like fever, diarrhea, dehydration, nausea, vomiting, fatigue that is all associated with the tomato flu. What is the difference between tomato flu and the COVID-19? When it comes to the incubation or the isolation period, it is about 5 to 7 days for the tomato flu, but it is 2 to 14 days for COVID-19. When it comes to contagious, tomato flu is less contagious, but when it comes to COVID-19, it is more contagious. Response to children is targets children under the age of 5, but this occurs for all age group. Treatment is drugs to fight chikungunya or dengue, works for tomato flu. There are few FDA drugs approved for oxygen for the COVID-19 and the complications in tomato flu. Non-life threatening till now, but when it comes to COVID-19, there are cases of blood clotting in veins, arteries, lungs, heart, legs and the brain. These are some of the differences between COVID-19 as well as tomato flu. Is there a treatment for the tomato flu? There is no specific treatment or the vaccine available for this disease. It is on the basis of the symptoms. So if a person is affected with fever, he is provided paracetamol, so on and so forth. So on the basis of symptoms, they are given a particular medicine. How can tomato flu be prevented? The Government of India has come up with what is called as the guidelines. As per the advisory, anyone suspected to have the infection should remain in isolation for 5 to 7 days after the onset of the symptoms. So they should be completely isolated. It states that children must be educated about the infection and asked not to hug or touch other children with fever or rashes. The children should be encouraged to maintain hygiene, stop thumb or finger sucking and use a handkerchief for a running nose. If a child develops symptoms, they should be isolated. The utensils, clothing and bedding must be regularly sanitized. They must be kept hydrated and the blisters must be cleansed using warm water. It also states that testing should be conducted to take measures if there is an outbreak. Any respiratory, fecal or cerebrospinal fluid samples in cases with encephalitis or inflammation of the brain have to be collected within 48 hours of the illness. The biopsy of the lesions or the skin scraping samples does not have such time limits. These are some of the guidelines given by the central government to the state government. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this fact of the day. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.